Hey, Beastista here, and welcome back to the VDL. We just finished our Season 5 draft teams, and I'd like to go over what I did and why I did it. So, for reference, this season we are doing no Dynamaxes, VGC doubles with no restricted Pokemon. And so I might tell that might affect some of my decision making, and I will normally tell you if that is the case, why I picked it. So last season I did a mono bug team, and I did quite well. I think I was one win away from making the playoffs, and I enjoyed myself greatly. So this season I wanted to do a monotype team again. So I didn't have a team type that I really wanted to go with, and so I kind of looked at all the teams. So the important things that I find in a draft are the above ones: Fake Out, Trick Room, Redirection, Intimidate, Prankster, Terrain, and Speed Control. So these are all things that I would greatly enjoy to have on my team, but are not 100% necessary. In a non-Dynamax format, I think that maybe I could say Fake Out is necessary because of how powerful it is and how useful it will be against most teams. But for the most part, all the other ones I would like, but are not necessary. So looking here, this is the chart for the entirety of all the types. So disregard the specific Pokemon. They're not necessarily at the moment, but the important thing is white versus red. So red means that there is not a single Pokemon in that type that has the required ability. And so what we can see is I ordered it from the number of reds versus to the least number of reds on top to the most number of reds on the bottom, which means the bottom types are very bad, in my opinion, for a doubles draft league. And so for the most part, I can say I think only these are probably worth considering. And unlike last time, in which I just picked Bug because it was my favorite, this one was a little bit more tricky because none of these types are necessarily my favorite type. And so I decided that I might as well just restrict myself to this. And so looking here, you can say, oh, Fairy looks obviously the best because it has everything, every single option. That's kind of true, but not super much, not entirely so. Because one of the problems with Fairy is that their team or Fairy type Pokemon are definitely very dominantly in tier 1 and 2, which means that it's actually very difficult to make a mono Fairy team because there are not many options in the lower tiers because Fairy Pokemon are so good. And so it actually makes it difficult to successfully draft enough Pokemon. So I kind of decided to do this somewhat randomly. So I asked one of my good friends of the 6 types, as you see in the green, what type seems like the funnest to see and what type would you like to see. And my friend picked Poison. So Poison has everything on this, as you can see, except for Prankster, which is definitely nice, but not the biggest, not the most important thing. In addition to Poison having everything except one of the things, it also has something very nice that not many types actually have, which is it has a dark Pokemon and a flying Pokemon or a levitate Pokemon, which is it has a Pokemon that's immune to Psychic and a Pokemon that is immune to Ground, which means that Poison has a type that its only 2 weaknesses, Poison or Ground and Psychic, it has immunities for, which is incredibly important when almost every Pokemon on your team has Ground or Psychic weakness. I have ability to switch in Pokemon that have immunities to those moves. So a Pokemon that might do Psychic to one of my Pokemon, I can switch in a Dark Pokemon and it takes 0 damage. And the same is true for Ground types. So that's definitely a really nice thing about this. So going in, we can see one of the big things is when I look at Speed Control, Terrain, and Intimidate, which was 3 of the categories I considered important on the spreadsheet, we see that there's exactly one Pokemon with Speed Control, which is Crobat, exactly one Pokemon with Terrain, which is Weezing, and exactly one Pokemon with Intimidate, which is Quillfish. So that would mean that likely I'm going to value these Pokemon higher than I would otherwise because I don't have any other options that are going to replace their abilities or skills. Next, we can see for Trick Room, Redirection, Fake Out, we have more options total. However, what we can see is that, and most of these, there are clearly superior options. As in, with Redirection, we have Amoonguss and Foongus, and Amoonguss is clearly better than Foongus. In Trick Room, Nihilego is very good, and so is Slowking, but Slowbro is significantly worse than Slowking. And for Fake Out, we can see that Toxicroak and Salazzle are good. However, the first evolution of Toxicroak is not particularly good, so we'd probably like to avoid that if that was optional, if that was possible. And so those are kind of some of the ideas that went into my head before I decided our draft. So I begin by starting with Crobat. So Crobat is the only Pokemon with Tailwind, so it is completely irreplaceable in that aspect. It has an immunity to ground, which is going to be a common weakness upon most of my team. It has inner focus, which prevents it from being faked out. And last season, it was drafted incredibly early. And so I decided to go for it as my first overall pick. And I think it was a reasonable decision because of those things. So next, I was 100% sure I wanted to pick my Tier 1 Pokemon. And so the two options that I had were Amoonguss and Nihilego. So these Pokemon are very different. Amoonguss is bulky support Pokemon. Nihilego is a fast offensive Pokemon. Amoonguss has redirection. Nihilego learns Trick Room. However, I decided to go with Amoonguss. The big reason I went with Amoonguss is that I think that it being grass poison, giving it a neutral damage from ground moves is really important. In addition to that, I think that there are many other fast special attackers in which Nihilego is not as big of as a loss. In addition, Nihilego has a 4 times weakness to ground, which is already a weakness that I need to deal with frequently. So next, I had to make a big decision, which is Gonadal is the only other remaining Tier 1 after I selected Amoonguss, because Nihilego was selected the pick after I picked Amoonguss. And so I said, okay, do I want this? And the answer was, yeah, I would like Gonadal. The question was, when do I think I should get it? And I came to the conclusion that I think Gonadal is probably the worst Tier 1, if not the worst Tier 1, maybe the top 5 worst Tier 1 Pokemon. And what that means is that, though that sounds bad, it's actually quite good, which is I don't think anyone has a reason to select this Pokemon in Tier 1 because I think it is likely it might be over-tiered. There's a chance that, I think it's probably fine in Tier 1, but there's a chance that if it was in Tier 2, it would have been fine and it wouldn't be too powerful. And so that gives me the ability to say, I don't think anyone's going to pick it, and I'm going to pick this as my last overall pick. And so I'm done with, so that lets me pick other Pokemon earlier than I would otherwise, because I don't feel the need to use this pick early. And so with that, I decided to go with Galarian Weezing. So Galarian Weezing, as I said previously, is the only poison Pokemon that can set up terrain. In addition to that, it also has the ability to levitate, which gives it the opportunity to have a ground immunity. In addition to that, it also learns the ability neutralizing gas, which can counteract abilities. So the big reason why I've drafted this as high as I could is because psychic terrain is a very big problem for my team because it boosts the damage of psychic moves. And psychic terrain with expanding force can completely destroy my team. And so Weezing gives me the ability to prevent psychic terrain from going up or like overriding it with psychic terrain with one of its 2 abilities. I don't know if I needed to pick this as early as or I should have picked it as early as I did. However, normal wheezing and coughing were both selected almost immediately after I selected this. So I think there's a good chance that it would have been gone if I would have waited one more draft pick. So next, I went with Salazzle. So Salazzle is a very fast special attacker that has the move Fake Out, which is incredibly useful. In addition to that, it being a fire Pokemon can be relevant because bulky steel Pokemon can be pretty hard for a poison team to deal with. And so it having fire coverage and being a very good damage output can definitely deal with some of those bulky fire Pokemon. So next, before I made my next pick, Drapion was selected, which is actually going to be my next pick. So Drapion is, I'd say, notably the best dark poison Pokemon, and that means that I lost one of my 2 total options of a psychic immunity. And so this was very sad. However, I had auto select on, and my next pick was Toxicroak, which is pretty good. It's a physical attacker, and I don't have great physical attacks right now. It also has Fake Out, and also some priority damage like Sucker Punch, Feint, and other things like that. It doesn't do a whole lot other than mainly Fake Out and some offensive output, but it can definitely do some good things with that. So next, I decided to go with Galarian Slowking. Galarian Slowking is very bulky, slow Trick Room setter that can also be a Trick Room sweeper. In addition to that, it's significantly better than the only remaining Trick Room sweeper or Trick Room setter and sweeper, which is Slowbro, because Slowbro has significantly worse stat distribution. And so I decided to get this because I feel like Slowbro would have been a downgrade, and I should get it. So next, I decided to go with Skuntank. So Skuntank is one of the only remaining dark poison Pokemon. So this does give my team a immunity to Psychic. It might have been optimal to take it a pick earlier just to be safe, but I was lucky and still got it. I would have felt really bad if I would have missed this and Drapion, but I got this. It's not a great Skuntank is not a great Pokemon, but it is pretty bulky, and it having the Psychic immunity will be very useful, hopefully, in my team. So next, I decided to go with Tentacle. So Tentacle is reasonably fast. It's very bulky. However, when I selected it, the main reason I selected it is because there was 2 remaining Tier 4 Pokemon, and it was this one and Garbodor. And though neither of them were super exciting for me, in all honesty, Tentacle definitely looked more exciting to me, and I definitely felt the pressure of not being able to fill up my team with all poison Pokemon if somebody picked both of the poison Pokemon before I made this pick. So next, I decided to pick up Toxapex. So Toxapex, I picked up for the same reason at this point. There were only 2 Tier 3s left, which is this one and Slowbro. And Slowbro is pretty much, I already have a almost identical Pokemon to Slowbro and Slowking. And so I didn't feel the need for that. And so I decided to get Toxapex while I had the chance. So Toxapex is incredibly bulky, one of the bulkiest Pokemon in the game. In addition to that, it also has the move Wide Guard. It's the only poison Pokemon that has Wide Guard, which is very good because I can deal with multi-targeted moves like Earthquake and Expanding Force and Psychic Terrain, which both of those can completely crush my team. And so it has that as a great set. Finally, I decided to go with Quillfish, and Quillfish is not a great Pokemon in any extent except for its ability, which is Intimidate. So with Intimidate, it can have the ability to be very bulky on the physical side. However, it's mainly there for Intimidate. It's not going to do much unless my opponent has good physical attackers that I feel the need to intimidate. And finally, I did in fact end up getting Naganadel as my last pick. I was very happy to see that. It was definitely a risky decision, but I got there. Naganadel has incredible speed, very good special attack, and Beast Boost, which can increase either its speed or special attack, and has the ability to definitely take control of games, especially if you can pair it next to something like a Mungus or a Fake Out Pokemon. And so overall, that's my team. I'm pretty happy with my team. Missing Drapion was definitely a big miss, but other than that, I think that my team looks very good, and I'm hoping to be able to get to the playoffs this season. So thank you for watching.